Hola, hola. I'm Trek with two Ks,
And I am 3D, and welcome to Metaverses the Other Side.
brought to you here on the Gentleman of Crypto Network. Just a heads up, this episode is before we had the idea of bringing the Twitter spaces to the Gentleman of Crypto Network. And so that's why we're talking about the stuff that we're talking about in this episode. Because tonight's subject is Ghost in the Shell. We are focusing on episode 12, letting 3D take the lead on this particular episode. It's funny, I rewatched the first movie because initially I thought that's what we were going to talk about until we figured out it wasn't the one that were actually looking to talk about. But there's a lot of uh, monologue, dialogue level stuff in the first Ghost in the Shell movie about like what is human existence, what is the future, and understanding like you have a biological body and you can also have a mechanical or artificial body. Where does that line draw? And I have to say, in rewatching the original Ghost in the Shell, what's going on, Bobcat? It definitely like reminded me of how far ahead of itself that anime as a movie was. And the cartoon as a series is definitely ahead of itself. X amount of the later stuff though that they started pushing out on Netflix and the movie with what's her face, that's a whole nother story. Right. But nonetheless, 3D, if you want to like give the proper introduction to this whole thing, um, go ahead.
All right, bro. Yeah. So basically, Ghost in the Shell, the original movie, it definitely is pushing the limit of what is human. And something that we got to point out is that they have full cybernetic androids. So these are
Real quick,
people.
hey,
Yep.
real quick, are you like right on your mic? Because your volume loud.
That's loud. No, I'm not right up on it.
Okay.
Um,
Dang.
that might be the room I'm in. I'm in a echoey room, so it's probably trying to cancel the echo. Um, I'll be in a different room in a second. We're just finishing up my coffee. But yeah, so they have full cybernetic android, which means, it's just brain cells. That's the only human part about it, right? And something that they kind of hint at throughout the whole movie, but you don't find out to the very end, is that uh, the main lady Major, right? So Major is basically told that she really was a human. She was in the military. She was so good at her job that when she died, part of her brain was taken and put into a mechanical body. And really what happens is her soul attaches to that mechanical body, creating her ghost in that shell. So she kind of figures that out later on or whatever. And when you watch the Standalone complex, you get more insight on the whole ghost concept. And so in the movie, like all of the original first like four films, um, they have these boxes that have a cybernetic brain. So it's the human's brain imprinted onto a cybernetic machine that they use to hack other, you know, people, machines, anything. So basically, uh, they're hooking these people with some form of cybernetics to a person who's dead to their cybernetic brain to hack. And we find out in one specific episode, episode 12 of the Standalone Complex season 1, you find out that those brains, when you're in there, it's like a full metaverse. It's a full universe, as deep as the creator wants, as shallow as the creator wants. And then looking at all of the stuff, you find out that basically the internet these people use in this time frame is 100% like a metaversal internet, like something that's kind of been a big theme with a lot of these older metaversal movies is their internet is their metaverse. It's like all combined into one, lump sum. Um, and so that's kind of the best way to describe it for what we're talking about and stuff like that. So when they're accessing the internet, GPS or anything, they get the full 3D view and all the fun setup and stuff like that. It's kind of like what we were getting but they take it like to the full extreme. And I still find it funny because the actual, yeah, bro.
Okay, sorry. One thing, so we didn't do a full actual introduction one. So, and I didn't do some of the beginning house cleaning. So first thing is, welcome to the Metaverses, the other side. That is the name of the Twitter space. And today's subject is Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex, episode 12. This is a part of what we've been doing, which is like a metaverse series on what movies, cartoons, and TV shows that deal with metaverses, who's close, who's far off on how they're interpreting what a metaverse is. Some of the shows are relatively new, some things might be kind of old. And so here we are now talking about, excuse me, oh, Jesus. Sorry. Had the big dinner and stuff. So things are kind of moving on me right now. But that's the subject that we're talking about, which is the Standalone Complex. And this was a part of a series of different shows and movies that we're going through. Anime is included in this. What is the other point I wanted to make? If you don't know, this is the Builder DAO account, and this is me in 3D putting that together. We do things in the metaverse such as design and build, and we are currently actually during the time of this recording in this month of, what are we in, November? Yeah, so the Thanksgiving timeline, we are actually doing a hackathon that is called the Meta Caching Challenge. And yeah, those are like the type of things that we do. I say hashtag we're not tourists because we're actually messing around in the space and doing some arguably interesting things that it seems like no one else is necessarily paying attention to, at least for right now. So I just wanted to put that out there. Also, a thing to note is these episodes going forward will be added into the Gentlemen of Crypto Network. So if you miss it here, you can definitely catch it on the Gentlemen of Crypto Network. And we're looking at it as a late night thing. So it's going to be later on in the evening, probably at the end of the week. And for those who are listening on the side of YouTube, if you want to catch the live, we're here on Thursdays, 8 p.m. East Coast time. And so, yeah, I guess I'll throw those things out there. Other than that, hopefully you enjoy this conversation. Looking forward to the other folks that will tap in and listen to this later on. And if you're interested in stuff, the DMs are always open. So we definitely appreciate if folks reach out, engage, and probably give us some other things that we could talk about in relation to metaverses. We're not about the speculative side. We're not about flipping coins and tokens. We're actually about the tech and the things that we can actually do, build, and create. The other thing to note is we also put together a website that has all of the low code, no code, and ready code type tools that would allow you to build things like smart contracts, NFTs, DAOs, and things in relation to metaverses. These are things that you can actually put in play. But nonetheless, I want to let 3D continue on the point that he was making about the episode 12 and Standalone Complex, which is of Ghost in the Shell. Sorry, bro. There you go.
Absolutely, bro. So like, definitely gotta do those. But yeah, like the story is like the original Ghost in the Shell movie came out in like 98, 99 or 2000, right? Well, the actual story that it's based on, the anime and the manga, it's almost like, I think it was like 89 or 88 or 87 when it initially came out. And then by the time the story hit in 98, they had basically the same story that we have seen in the first movie and a lot of the standalone complex concepts. So these ideals are much older, and it's just weird to see because like we've done now 4 or 5 movies or whatever, and all of the concepts are pre 2000. Some of these concepts go all the way back to like the 70s. They're just and that's just crazy, and a lot of them are pretty on point. Now, I think with this movie, it was kind of a long shot. Like, I did kind of remember more because I remember watching the show and I've seen like the first 4 films and stuff. And so some of that gets kind of mixed up in my head. And I was thinking one thing would end up being another, but the Ghost in the Shell if you look at the entire series as a whole and the first movie as a whole, they basically try to intertwine technology with humans as much as possible. And with like people trying to get the brain chips working and things like that, it's unusually scary how close we are to this form of lifestyle where like I remember in one of the scenes I had that garbage truck. They're like the garbage truck, it has to pick up and leave. It has to go from one spot to the next spot every 7 minutes. Like it's on a routine schedule, like no ands, ifs, or buts, right? And one guy is slowing them down a little bit, causing some problems. And then someone accesses the database to try to find out who in that area is, blah, 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 right? And that tripped like a digital alarm to the sanitation company, who then hits up the people, running these routes, the 3 different people. And they're like, bro, what the fuck you do? What'd you do? Why are people looking into us? Why is someone looking into the data? And we're starting to actually see stuff like that. Like nowadays when there's a hack, there are digital alarms that can be set off. And so companies will like scan stuff through their database. And then if they find specific things tripped, they'll actually go, okay, we know this much data was removed because our little imprint that we put in says, this much data was moved and things like that. And then we're also seeing like FTX had an internal system where like they had like an internal tunnel to access and do things within the system that wouldn't trip those alarms. And I think that stuff for, especially like right this, time, the past 2 years, we're actually seeing some of that stuff in real time, but yet we were learning about this stuff from the 80s to the 90s and early 2000s. Absolutely insane.
Okay. So that makes me think of, do you remember in the episode where they take the garbage man and they bring him in for questioning, and then they realize like, oh, your brain was hacked. His cyber brain was hacked. So if you never watched Ghost in the Shell, one of the things to understand about this futuristic reality is that nearly all, and we'll say majority of the modern society has some level of cybernetic enhancement within their brain. So basically, there's some level of connection to how, they can connect to what would be the internet, but their internet, like as 3D was saying earlier, is on a very different level for how we look at the internet now. Like I wouldn't even call what they're doing Web 3 or Web 3.0. Like, no, it's a whole next different thing just because, well, it's a number of reasons, but the experience and interaction is very different. Nonetheless, the point about him being taken into the interrogation room was when they then made him when they then told him like, hey, your brain was hacked. You don't actually have any kids. You don't have a wife, blah, 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 blah. And he was like, wait, what are you saying? Like he couldn't believe it. And the other thing to note was there's a scene like right before that where he's talking to his partner, who's his co-worker at the sanitation company. And he tried to show him a picture of his daughter, right? And they don't show you the picture of the daughter. So you don't see it at the time. But then when he is in the interrogation room, they show the picture. The picture is of him and a dog. And that goes to show like one of the things I think about or question with this whole thing of, you know, the future of the World Wide Web and what that means in relation to like a metaversal experience, a virtual reality experience, in that it is all encompassing. And the basic idea is that in the virtual world, you're using iconograph type things to represent how you would access data or how you're looking to remember things, right? And the idea that someone was able to imprint into his brain this external, non-existent real thing that then is taken in as this is real and I can picture it. And anytime I look at something, this is what I'm seeing. Like, to me, arguably, this is one of the dangers of where I don't think we can avoid metaverse spaces going. And I don't even think we have to get to that level of where like, oh, it's connected in your brain automatically, like the friggin' Elon Musk. What's the name of the thing Elon want to do? I forget the name.
I forget the name of the chip too, bro.
But I think that there will be things before that that will be like the not progenitor, but like here's version 1, here's version, point 1, here's version 0.1.5, here's version 0.2, like, and we'll make slow progressions of how we can have people, because like, think about it this way. Augmented reality is just a variation of what happened to the dude. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
you
Like,
know what I'm
like
saying?
something I think is creepy is we actually have digitalized zoom capable contact lenses contacts you put directly in your eye, real thin, real small. They will automatically adjust and zoom to make it to where anybody can wear them. So like I can buy one contact lens and everybody in my family could wear that and it will adjust and zoom so each person can see perfectly. So we're not far away from being able to then put an LCD screen in there and give an image that someone's seeing, whether they want to or not. And like you said, the guy is looking at the picture in the thing as if he's looking at his wife and his daughter. And then you look at it and it's just a security cam footage of him walking a dog. And that's creepy as fuck because we do have AR, like right now, like there are board games and stuff where you pick up your phone or you put it on your VR with the phone at, inside of it. So you have the external camera and you can't actually see what is there. You can only see what is being implanted onto you from the phone on your VR headset. And so, yeah, right. We're literally like 5-6 years away from something like what happened with this guy happening to someone else. But instead of it being like they hacked the brain, they're gonna be like, oh, someone hacked your contact lens. All right, bro. So I go see Alciota, you've been coming in out, probably having some connection errors, and I hope you're getting connected just fine. Every so often we will invite people in to talk and stuff. So if you guys want to add in or say hello or anything, by all means, just hold up a hand or come in when we're a little bit quiet. There's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, so like if we go, okay, for as in metaverse right now, this is still a bit far fetched, but we are starting to see like Decentraland and stuff like that, where people are able to use their VR headsets already. And there are some towns that have VR imprinted version of their town where you can actually go physically buy goods completely in VR. And the ideal of, in this franchise, that is the common thing. Like there's specifically one of the cops. He's a detective technically. And one of the reasons why they chose him, like he's actually talking to the major. And keep in mind, major's 99.999% robot, just like a couple of brain cells that's human and an actual soul or ghost. And he's like, why would you want someone like me? I'm not enhanced. And she's like, well, other than the few attachments into your brain so you can talk to us, you're all human. And so you're going to make decisions that are different than us. And we kind of need that because if everyone else is affected, then, you won't be screwed. Yeah, bro.
Okay, so interesting to know that you brought that point up because I was going to get to him too. Because it's him and the sniper guy who are the least cybernetically integrate people. The
Uh,
sniper guy has the eye and like his arm, and
don't
then
forget that that one guy, the researcher, he's completely human. He has to have that big machine over his face when he's doing research.
okay, all right, okay, so it's three of them then. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, okay, so okay, interesting enough in regards to that, like when I think about the episode, again, episode 12 is what we're talking about in the Standalone Complex series of Ghost in the Shell. At first I wasn't sure where the episode was going because they let the Takashi go and just to see like what would it do. And uh, so the
Well, that's a little
idea,
bit convoluted because the guy with the eyes, the sniper, he was giving them natural oil, like plant-based oil,
no, it wasn't
right?
a sniper. It was what's his name who was giving them he was only giving it to one of them. And
Exactly. But
that's
that
the
was
one
because he was making that oil. And so it gained its own spirit, so to speak. It
uh,
gained its own
what,
AI.
on autonomy. Autonomy.
Yeah, yeah,
I think that's what
yeah.
we're looking for. But where I was going with that is like it gets back to the same thing of um where are we crossing the line or where does the line end or start on sanction? No, not sanction. What's the word? Autonomous AI that is like self-aware. Um And then, because that's what's addressed in the first one, in the movie, in the first one, that's what's addressed in that one about not sanction. What is the word I'm looking for?
I'm not sure, but it does start with an S. It just means that it has its own its own life.
Awareness.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you got that going on. But as far as like this whole part here, like
Sentient.
the sentient, there we go, sentient AI. But it was interesting to listen to the conversations that was going on between the Takashis, um, Tamakachis. Am I saying that right? I think it's
You
Tamakachis.
said it right the first
Um,
time.
Takachis. Okay. So, cause like they were having the whole thing about like the purest organic people versus the cybernetic integrated people, and then like cyborgs versus like just a regular plain robot with like low processing. And then even in their thing of, oh, well, we're higher processing AI compared to the secretary cyborg that they like made get into that logical loop
Yeah.
when they were trying to get the cybernetic brain. So like it was interesting to note like there's some multiple things that were going on as far as like what was going on in the dialogue, and then how they even made their own little class system thing between like, oh well, we're this type of AI, and then there's like he's like that over there, which is not the same quote. Like there was a difference in hierarchy. There we go. Now, jumping back to the thing about like this virtual world and the idea of if you have enough of a person's memory and experiences and you can compute that into some kind of recognizable, readable, something, whatever data. And because like here's something to note, right? The major does not have all of her memories. And if you look at it this way, as far as there is enough of her memories that she has access to within the brain setup that she's in, and then there's the essence of her ghost that doesn't actually have necessarily like the memory side of it, but the ghost makes it enough that she has a very unique personality compared to everyone else who is on the team, right?
Yeah.
Um,
She even questions to the other guy. She's even like, what if I was full AI? If I have enough differences from the experiences I've gained throughout learning on my own, wouldn't that make me sentient?
hmm and okay. And so the other thing that I was wondering about, like I said, like when I rewatched the episode, bro, there was a lot of things to question about, like, what do we understand as a metaverse, and then how we interact in metaverse in a virtual space, like the in the in the idea of, right, um if I'm a person, I end up dying, but enough of my brain uniqueness, the data that makes my brain what it is and my personality and all of that stuff what it is, if that's moved over into a cybernetic brain, and the thing that we're calling the ghost um somehow makes the connection or crossover with the data transfer, like, is it the data transfer that makes the personality and, like, the traits and characteristics of the person, or the being, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you were able to transfer over all of the data that makes up that person's memory and experiences, if you don't get the the ghosts to transfer with it, is that the same person? Like, does it mess up the personality? And then also, does it change how the person understands how to act in this virtual space? Because, like, the idea that the physical box of the machine itself is but so big, but then the virtual side of it is relatively infinitively big, which was the thing with the the cybernetic brain they found. Like, when she first got there, it was just, she was outside of a building, and then she got into the building, and then there was like a long ass hallway, and then there was this whole movie theater thing that she ends up walking into. Like, the concept of space is so different.
I do want to point out one thing. I don't think you noticed this. That theater always has the exact number of seats for people to view, except for the creator. There's never an empty seat.
Hmm. Interesting. Hmm.
Because if
Okay.
if you go back, when she comes in, there's only one open seat out of all of them. And that's for her, because she's there. And the old guy is like, they're choosing to be here. They're, and then when they play the screen, it's blank. There's nothing there. So everyone uniquely gets their completely different experience.
Okay.
So
I
like
was about to
the AI side is able to determine, hey, we have this many people, we need this many seats, blah, blah, blah. And then instead of trying to play something physically, and I would imagine nowadays it would just be a QR. You would scan the QR and get your personalized output type thing. You know what I mean?
Bro, that's literally some of what happens in the movie, in the book Snow Crash. Like, that's how but the only difference is, in Snow Crash, what it's doing is crashing people's brains, their organic brains. They're hacking. Someone came up with a virus that they could transfer through something like a QR code with, like, white noise on it. And it's hacking people's brains from the virtual side. Like, you see it in the virtual, but it fucks you up on the reality side.
Oh, that's what's up. Now, something when I was rewatching Standalone, I was like, that movie theater, I was like, that's TikTok. Because it's basically the exact same thing. It's an algorithm showing you your own thought to ensure you're going to want to watch.
Mm, that's a good one. Okay, bet. Um, okay. So, all right, now,
Positivity feedback loop, I think is what it's called.
right. So, yeah, like, for the things that you like and for the stuff that you spend the most time on paying attention to, it will continually show that type of stuff to you, which makes sense. And then if you put it, what would this, is this like thought to image or thought to video? Because if you have the connection in your brain of this thing happening, or or how do I say this? If the algo is able to directly communicate with your brain. It's reading the impulse or the thought faster than you're aware of it. And so it's just like it's putting the things in front of you in like in real time comprehension.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You get what I'm saying? Like
Yeah, and
that,
I would
like,
definitely say there's some form of AI attribution. I mean, like, look at it right now, like all these metaverses we have, they take data as you do stuff, right? So it can actually figure out what you want to do. We have AI that can take those basic inputs, car, plane, train, and create brand new imagery revolving that. Well, what if we had like an entire person's memory path to give the AI to say, okay, make something with all of these good thoughts.
okay. So, all right, what did that thought just remind me of? There is an AI that now puts together um podcast content, and it's something I don't know who made it. I gotta send you that website. There's a website that we gotta look over. And I
I have seen
think
one for videos where they got ones that make straight up videos and music and not just images, but like they'll take your video and make music from it. So like the AI can fake build your video, then you give a different AI that video and it will build you a soundtrack to match. And it's like these things are starting to get to a point where, remember, like in the Matrix, they kept saying, no, people wanted to be in there. Bro, no wonder they fucking want to be in there. If you keep feedback looping them only positive, whatever, they have no reason to escape. And that's the scary part about this show is it literally shows people in there that they'll talk to each other about what they saw so they can learn what other people saw, which affects what they're going to see next. And then when you go in there and you see, there's absolutely nothing fucking there. It's fucking creepy.
okay, so here's some other like all right. So think about the fantasy world. If if on the sci-fi like science fiction stuff, if what we're saying is this is what algos are doing in a logical sense of a positive feedback loop, on the sci-fi side of it, when you know how some of those sci-fi stories, sorry, not sci-fi, the fantasy stories would have it where it's like, oh, if you go into the forest, you'll be lost in there forever and you never make it out. And then you find out it's like either some plant or some tree or some bug that infects you with something. And then it gives you a positive reinforcement loop about like your fantasy or your desires. Like arguably
Yeah.
that is an
Yeah.
algo, that is a virus writing the algo that works to hack your nervous system and your sensory organs. Like we're figuring out how to digitize nature.
Yeah, exactly. Now, something that's kind of creepy. There's this lady giving tips to like, women who have a hard time keeping a man. And she literally, this is what she said. When your guy comes over, have him sleep over, right? Fuck him or whatever. And when he passes out, give him a nicotine patch and then wake up before him and take it off. So somewhere in the night, take it off. Then when he leaves, he gets that withdrawal. He's going to think that that withdrawal is because he ain't with you. Then when he come back and you give it to him again, then he thinks positive things are, he gets that positive reinforcement from the nicotine when he's with you. So he wakes up next morning feeling bright and fresh. Oh my God, I can't believe da 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 da. Turn out it's just nicotine.
Bro, that is devilishly intelligent as hell and scary as hell at the same.
It's also
Like,
exactly in line of what you're talking about. Like people are figuring out how to do it digitally with algos. Women are figuring out how to do it with chemicals. The plants and stuff, they also do it with chemicals. It's all the same thing.
that's crazy scary. Wow. Okay. So I just want to kind of reel it back towards this thing of like metaverses and what we're trying to make in the comparison or the connection between Ghost in the Shell, Standalone Complex. We're particularly focusing in on episode 12, which is where they let one of the Takashis go in particular, and they find this cybernetic brain, and it turns out that the cybernetic brain is like its own mini metaverse, but it's focused in on the artistic creation of this director. And apparently the draw of once people connect to it is so strong that they choose to not leave that device and the metaversal experience they have in watching that director's movie. And so basically the people's real world body just like goes to being in a coma, and what they call the ghost in the Ghost in the Shell movie decides or chooses to stay in that movie theater, that virtual movie theater, and continually viewing the director's thing. But the irony is that each person has like their own kind of unique vision of what the director's movie actually is. No one is seeing the same thing, but it is enough to draw people in. And what we are just like kind of concluding to is that when you look at sci-fi and fantasy movies and TV shows, when they have that whole thing about like the dark forest or that area you go into where there's the fog or the insect or whatever that puts people in a wondrous like wonderland and mentally in their minds, like that's a nature thing, in that you have stuff like that happening now in nature, not on the same like, you know, real scale of like you go into a forest and you disappear forever off of that. But there are things that where you have animals and insects in real world that can poison us in a way that paralyzes us, and and at the same time, we can also be hallucinating from the poison. And so what we're drawing is that arguably metaverses can be used in that example of us hallucinating in a different way. If you have a metaversal experience or a setup that can work in a more real-time creation. And here's one to throw out for you. If how I'm looking at what's going on with this AI thing for like text to image, text to video, text to music, what is the other one? There's another one that I can't think of right now, but the idea of connecting a AI or two into a metaverse and then having it be where like, if you can have it connect into the audio track of when you're talking in the metaverse space and it's generating your environment in real time. Like, I think that could be done probably in this decade. Like, it'll be a real rough ass version or like a rough draft of it, but I think that can be done. Like, cause we're already testing out the AI. Like, I don't think folks understand how fast these AI models are being renditioned out for like, all right, we did 0.1, now we're doing 0.1, 0.5, now we're gonna do 0.2, 0.2, 0.1. Like, these things are coming out ridiculously fast. And not only do you have like the actual older, more experienced seasoned coders writing this stuff, then you got the new low code, no code folks who are figuring out other ways to build these types of algorithms, and they're cutting corners and then like learning that these things are doing things that they didn't expect. So imagine a whole decade plus of this, and this stuff coming out like a couple things a month, and we're going through iterations that fast. I feel like some of the stuff going on with the AI, um, technologies is like what we were seeing during like the 2019 into 21 period for yield farming and doing liquidity pool stuff. Like, do you remember how fast that period was in the space? Like it was like every couple of weeks you turned around, there was some new type of yield farming platform, some kind of new tweet that they did that was different from something that was like 3 months ago. And I feel like for what I see happening right now, because there's like one or two people that I pay attention to on the YouTube side. And this one dude, I kid you not, he has like a new video out every other day naming some new software that is doing some variation of AI generated content. I seen this one joint today that it was the visual side, the video side of, I think it was Elon and AOC, and they were like going back and forth on something. I don't know what the thing came from exactly, but it was interesting to know. And then I've seen another one for the podcasting that I was saying, where they took Steve Jobs and Joe Rogan and they meshed a whole conversation together. Like
Yeah.
in in the next, okay, so here's the double-edged sword. Here's the double-edged sword of this thing, which I think is interesting. And I'm curious to see how it goes, especially because of like what I think is going to start playing out with augmented reality and virtual spaces. And I was talking about this yesterday in the Wevolution Twitter space, like this whole idea of, if you can go to the space virtually, why do you need to go there physically? And considering that we already see what's going on right now, and like what history has shown us is people in certain positions do not like to give history in the full, most accurate picture. So you get things left out intentionally. Yes, there's the accidental shit, but X amount of times it's stuff being left out intentionally. And my thought in regards to like the direction that we'll move into forward with metaverses and augmented reality is, there's going to be a part, and if you watch, forgot what episode of Black Mirror it was, there was a part where people were choosing to not see certain things. Now imagine what happens when you don't have the option yourself, like the ability of agency yourself to say, I want to see this thing or experience this thing. And it's either the company is deciding that for you, or the algo that the company puts in place is deciding that for you. Another case in point. Have you seen the thing going around about Google deleting stuff out of people's Google Drives?
Okay, I had that happen to me in 2020. Like, no joke. Like, because my Google Drive used to be over 100 gigabytes big, and then in 2020, I couldn't afford my dev thing, so like my $50 a year, and so they cut my thing down, and they mass deleted me down to 76 gigabytes. Like, mass deleted. It just happened to be stuff that was like medical records. When I had COVID, COV1 from 2017, 2019, it happened to be stuff from like the CD website. Like, the stuff they deleted was extremely specific. It wasn't just like, oh, we deleted everything from point A to point B, or previously before point A, because stuff I had in my Google Cloud from high school still fucking there.
Wow. Yeah. Somebody sent me the thing on IG, and I don't know the name of the dude who was explaining it, but he was like, yo, here's the stuff on Reddit. Here's the letters or the way that they're displaying it to people, but stuff is getting deleted. And so, yeah, there's a whole thing about that. Bringing it back in. And hey, Bobcat, if you want to say something, please do raise your hand, sir. We would appreciate engagement. The idea of this whole thing of like someone else deciding what you get to access, if you chose to get that, that content, and there's some, and granted, I know there is a double-edged sword of this. I know it, like, especially if you talk about shit like, you know, the kiddie stuff, like, hey, that's not what I'm talking about. I am so not talking about that. And then I can't even say like, well, you know, and let's say legal content, because the issue with that whole thing around like, well, what's the legal content is, how long is it that the stuff that was like, quote, free before it then turns into, well, no, that's illegal now because some company lobbied to make certain things illegal. Like, yo, did you know Z Library got taken over by the DOJ, their website? Like,
Only
their main website?
their Tor
Yeah.
website still up, but their
Right.
Web 2 website's down.
Right. So like, and this goes to the example of, if you don't know about the Tor side of it, like, you've just totally lost access to any of that library and all the stuff that it contained. Which then gets into like I said, like that slippery slope of what's legal now may not be legal in X amount of months. So there's a book that I cannot remember the name of right now, but I was thinking about this the other day. Yeah, what is the name of this book? Rainbow something? I think it's Rainbow, but hey, what's going on about that?
Not much,
Um,
man. I just wanted to say, hey, I was just listening. I had a couple bottles of champagne for Thanksgiving, so I'm just kind of chilling.
okay. Okay. Gotcha. All right, man. Well, I mean, I don't know if you've watched Ghost in the Shell, but if you want to kick in on something, please do. Again.
Yeah, I have not checked it out. I actually don't watch very many shows, but I'll have to check it out sometime.
Gotcha. All right, man. Cool. But we appreciate you for listening though. What was I
Yeah,
saying?
bro. And yeah, I'm looking forward to y'all's deal on the 8th. And of course, the crypto mindset reset on the 14th, 13th, and 14th.
Yeah, man.
And I will be in
Trying
Miami
to
next week. So
for our Basil?
yeah. Well, decentral mostly. Decentral.
Okay.
Yeah, Web3 Summit. So I'll be hanging out with Blood and some other cats. So it'll be fun.
For sure. Yeah, a number of people I know was asking about if I was coming down. I was like, I got other things going on right now. But I don't know. We'll see what happens next year. But I forgot what I was about to say. It was about a book, and the book dealt with it was a combination of the virtual side of things going on and like um what humans could see in the uh in augmented reality, and they were doing it through contacts. I forgot the word that they called the contacts, but um there were there was two things going on in this book primarily. One is there was a intelligence war brewing or happening between the US and India. And what was going on was, I think it was like the Indian intelligence side was trying to set the US up for something. And then they were going through like a third party person to be able to set up bio research facilities in the US. And there was a whole thing going on with that. And then they were like eliciting the help of people who just totally didn't even know what was going on that level of the conspiracy. And one of those people happened to be this noted professor who was also a writer. And I forget what it was that happened, but the basic idea in this thing is that like it's X amount into the future, but not like too crazy into the future. It's not like friggin' like Blade Runner timeline, but people are connected. Like you can communicate with people, quote, mentally over like a mental telecom. You have contacts that allow you to see augmented reality. So you could do searching while you're just looking at the wall or like, you know, swimming in the ocean. Like you could still connect in on stuff. Your clothes even, had cameras on it. So like you could see stuff or like through your clothes, but I cannot remember the name of the book. It was Rainbow something. My point in that is that there was also an element of like the AR, and they didn't call it metaverse. It was something else in that book. I forgot what they called it, but there was the idea of um picking and choosing what you were able to see, like looking in the real world, and then like what was being filtered out from your vision. I really wish I could remember the name for this book, but like those are the things that I be thinking about now. And I said this the other day. Oh, sorry, in a TikTok, like for all of the dystopian movies and TV shows that have been created over the decades, imagine if that is the universe, right? Like downloading into people ways to make the mental exercises visually. And when I say download into people, I mean like the people who are the writers and the directors who make the movies and the TV shows. Those are the people who are doing the visual part of the mental exercise, AKA a movie and a TV show. And imagine though, all of these are mental exercises showing us how we mess up the earth in multiple different ways, or just how we mess up humanity in multiple different ways. Very dark. Yes, I know. Apologies.
Yeah, it's like the you know, it all comes together in the end type thing. Like getting the power of technology almost always seems to corrupt people in like the movies and the TV shows and stuff. But when we look at reality, same damn thing. Like when all the voting machines, you know, like they found out, oh, not only were all the voting machines able to be hacked silently, no one can see it, all the voting machines were hacked silently, but the person who actually performed the hack came out publicly and said, okay, here's the data, here's what I did. And from that dump of data, they found out, wait a minute, not only was it hacked, it was completely falsified. The front end actually didn't work. And all the data went to China before it came back to America, and it was changed. Like when it went to China, data was changed when it came back because you could look at the input and output. And it's like, yeah, the more technology we have, the more corrupt everything that has been is easier to find. And I think that's like kind of why some of those like dark realities of the future always seem so fucking dark. Is it's a lot easier to see corruption with types of tools we have now, where before you just couldn't fucking see it, bro. Like,
Okay.
you know what I mean?
Okay. But like, it's easier to see it, but it's also easier to like do it.